Hey everybody, it is Professor Parish and we are on Module 7 of English 122. So it's Thanksgiving week. So unfortunately we have lots of stuff to do, so we can't take the week off, but there are only 2 assignments this week and they're both due Sunday. So you've got the whole week to complete them. We'll go ahead and open up the module here for this week. Now there is going to be an optional extra credit discussion forum, and I'm going to show you guys that here in just a second. But the other 2 assignments that are due this week is paper 3 and your thesis for your final paper. And we're going to go over those guidelines here in just a little bit, but there's no reading this week, just this lecture video. Your paper 3 draft is due by Sunday. So if you have submitted a paper before, it's the same format. And this will be a paper that you get to revise. So revisions will be due that Sunday before finals week. You just have to submit a draft to get the opportunity to revise. But that paper is going to be due. It's your drama paper and it's due Sunday. So as far as the discussion forums go, I pull up here. The extra credit discussion forum, since the week hasn't opened up yet, the extra credit discussion forum isn't listed here yet, but it will show up on, let me see here, and that's going to change here. It is going to show up for week 7. I'm going to have it listed here, and it'll say extra credit discussion forum. The week technically hasn't opened that assignment up yet, so we can't see it in this version, but you guys will see something that says discussion forum extra credit. And it's basically going to be exactly like the discussion forums you normally do, except it's going to be for extra credit instead of an actual grade. All right. So you guys will see that starting Sunday. It should pop up for you to see. All right. Or I'll try to get opened up. I'm recording this video Friday night, so I'll try to get opened up a little bit earlier for you all. But the other assignment is going to be your paper 4 thesis and outline. Now, obviously, I wanted you to watch this video before doing this assignment because our final paper is, we made this 3rd paper a little bit shorter because I wanted to give you a little bit more time to work on the final paper. So let's talk about the final paper. The final paper, you have lots of options. So this is really the capstone of this class. I want you to leave English 122 because for most of you, this may be the last English class that you ever take. So I want you to leave this course with a project that you're proud of, that you enjoyed working on and making. And so there's lots of options. So the first step is to choose what genre of literature you want to focus on. Do you want to focus on fiction or nonfiction, the short story unit? Do you want to focus on poetry? Do you want to focus on drama? It can be any one of those 3, whichever you liked the best or thought were the best to write in, you can do those. Now, step 2 is deciding what you want to focus on. Obviously, there's lots of options. These 4 right here are options that students have done in the past that have worked really, really well. So for example, option 1, you can do an analysis of an author's fiction, a poet's poetry, a playwright's screenplay history. Basically, you're talking about an author or a writer and how their style and craft has developed over time. Now, this is not a bibliography. I don't care where they grew up at. I don't care who their parents were or, stuff you'd find on biography.com. I don't care about that. I care about the author's text, like their works of fiction, poetry, or drama. So, for example, I've had students in the past write about Stephen King. They wrote about Stephen King's bibliography, like what was his first book, how did his first book change to his latest book, what were some of his most critically acclaimed pieces, why, what made them good, and you could talk about those. And then were there criticisms to Stephen King, and what were they? So they kind of went into depth about his writing more than the author themselves, if that makes sense. So that's been a popular option. You can obviously choose that. The second option is one I really like, and that is a controversy within a genre. So for example, Harper Lee is the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, which I'm sure several of you read in high school. But actually, a student wrote a paper about this a few years ago, and the student found out that Harper Lee had actually wrote a sequel to Kill a Mockingbird. And she wrote it before she wrote To Kill a Mockingbird, but she didn't like it. She didn't like the story, so she just she held on to the screenplay and thought, well, maybe one day I'll tweak it or I'll change it, the draft, I mean. And then she just never did. But some publishers found out about it, and when Harper Lee was like elderly, like about to pass away, they basically coerced her into giving them the rights to that script, that manuscript, and they published it. And so the student wrote about how this was basically like, harassing the elderly and abuse and fraud, and how they kind of went against Harper Lee's wishes in publishing this manuscript she clearly didn't want published. And so I've never read To Go Set a Watchman. That's Go Set a Watchman is the sequel. I've never read it, but I've had a lot of English friends that said that they hated it. They said that it completely ruined To Kill a Mockingbird. And I was like, oh, then I definitely don't want to read it. But they just said that there was a reason why Harper Lee didn't want to publish it. And these people just exploited her. So that was a controversy. There's been controversies about banned books. I had a student write about when Rocky Horror was made into one of those live action, live ABC specials, and they were like, this is bad. So they wrote about, should Rocky Horror be adapted or remade? Why or why not? You can do something like that. You can choose a controversy and write about it. The third option is to research and analyze a piece of drama or fiction and how it's adapted into another genre, such as film. But this should not be a book report. I don't want to know what plot changes from Please don't choose The Hunger Games. I've read like 20,000 papers on The Hunger Games. It's bothersome because a lot of students, they pick this option and they're like, oh, I'll just tell you how the plot changed. And I'm like, I don't want to know that because I may want to watch one of these movies or read one of these books one day. So, for example, I had a student write about Batman vs. Superman, but they wrote about the comic books that the film was based off of. So, The Dark Knight and The Death of Superman. So they wrote about those two comic series and talked about how Zack Snyder chose to adapt or not adapt those into Batman vs. Superman and the decisions he made, like what was the reasons behind them, were there criticism. So it's kind of like option one, except you're examining a specific piece of literature and how it's been adapted. The longest paper for this project I've ever had was a woman wrote about Les Mis, and she wrote about all the adaptations and all the history behind it, how it changed over time, how adaptations have spun off of it and altered things. Her paper, when we did the peer review, was 10 pages. And I was like, oh, you're almost done. She's like, I've got a little bit more to write. Her final paper, y'all, was 32 pages for this assignment. It took me a day to grade. And I will tell you right now that if you get past 12 pages, you might want to stop. You might find a stopping point. I mean, by all means, there's no limit, but try not to go to 32 pages, And so then another option is you can do an extended analysis of a specific poem, piece of fiction, or a play. This cannot be the subject of a prior paper. So if you wrote about Macbeth for paper 3, you can't choose Macbeth for paper 4, but you can choose Hamlet or another play if you want to write an extended analysis. It'll just be longer. And then obviously some of you may choose an out-of-the-box idea. If you really like creative writing, you may choose to write like a 10-page short story or write a play or do a poem analysis, like an extended paper 2, something like that. I'm open to that idea, but definitely in your thesis and outline assignment, talk to me about those and explain what you want to do. But you can choose an out-of-the-box creative idea if you want to. So here's how the paper works. Your paper must be at least 8 pages long. That does not include a title page, not include works cited, 8 pages of content. That's why I want you to choose a very broad topic. The bigger the topic you choose, the more you've got to write about. And so don't get yourself too niche and too narrow. Pick something that you've got a lot of research you can pick from. Your paper should have a detailed introduction paragraph where you explain your thesis and the goal of the paper and the points that you're going to address. There should be a section after your introduction where you introduce the topic or the concept or the controversy, explain the process. You kind of elaborate on your points, basically. And then within your paper, at some point, it should talk about at least 3 terms or concepts from the chapters on the genre you chose. So if you chose poetry, you need to at least in some form or another in your paper talk about 3 of the concepts or 3 terms from those chapters. Your paper also needs to have at least 4 sources. Now, this can include your textbook. Your textbook can be a source, and then you can have 3 other sources. The big thing is no Wikipedias or wikis. No bad.coms, no WikiHows, no Bilbopedia or whatever. Nah. If it's a wiki site, those are editable. They are editable content. They are not credible. I will not accept those as part of the 4, and I will count off points. So don't do that. Now, As far as the analysis stuff, your paper should be an analysis, meaning it's your thoughts. It's a synthesis of your words and sources. It's not just a summary, not just a book report. And if you have an out-of-the-box idea, you can always talk with me about it. Now, obviously, you need an MLA Works Cited page and in-text citations throughout. If you're doing an out-of-the-box project, what you will do is, if you're choosing a creative writing assignment, for example, you'll create a works cited page. You can cite your textbook. You can cite 3 other random sources. And then below that, you're going to actually create some in-text citations to show me that you know how to do them. Okay? And we can talk about that in your thesis and outline assignment when you submit those. So your topic and outline is due this Sunday. The peer review is going to be December 12th. And that's going to be, you're going to upload your draft and the class is going to read your drafts and give you feedback. And I'm going to give you feedback as well. So that's going to all be due December 12th. And then the final grade in your final paper will be due December 16th, which is on a Thursday. So our finals in Thursday night, that is when your papers will all be due. All right. So here's the breakdown of the points. It's worth twice as much as our previous papers. So your intro and conclusion are 20 points. The page length and formatting is 20 points. So if you only write 7 pages instead of 8, I'm going to deduct 10 points off of that is what it's going to amount to. Now, if you have less than 7 pages, not only will you get these points deducted from page length and formatting, but your content analysis I'll start to deduct from too because you don't have enough content. So your spelling and grammar count, the works cited in-text citation. If you don't include a works cited or in-text citation, you automatically have a B because that's how many points this part of the assignment is worth. So make sure you have an in-text citation and works cited. But as always, if you have any questions about your paper, feel free to email me and let me know. Definitely think about that paper this week, and that way you can get your thesis and outline can be bare bones. It can be just the bare minimum, right? It doesn't have to be elaborate. I just want to know what your topic is and give me an idea of the points you're going to talk about and what you're going to go over in this paper. And make it look like an outline, like Roman numerals, like 1 introduction, 2.1, 3.2, 4.3, make it look, if you don't know what an outline looks like, you can look them up online. There's like all these different examples. But for the most part, many of you are making them look like outlines, but some people are they're not quite what they should look like. So if you have questions, please let me know. But otherwise, I will get the extra credit discussion forum opened up. I'll get that opened up here by tomorrow so that you can see it. But otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week and a happy Thanksgiving. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you all again real soon. Bye.